Welcome back, dear students. In today's video, I'm going to discuss tuples in Python. In the last session, we have discussed dictionaries. In this session, we are going to discuss tuples. The tuple is the same as that of a list. It's also a sequence of value, so much like a list. The values stored in tuple can be of any type and they are indexed by integers. The important difference between tuples and lists is that tuples are immutable, whereas lists are mutable. We can change the list, the content element of a list, whereas we cannot change the content or any elements in the tuples. That's what tuples are, immutable. Tuples are also comparable and hashable. We can sort list of them and use tuples as key values in Python dictionaries. So in syntax, a tuple can be declared as shown here. T is equal to, say here, so this is a tuple of characters where all the elements are separated by comma. So very important, tuple is a comma separated list of values. Although it is not necessary, but it is common to enclose tuples in parentheses to help us quickly identify tuples when we look at the Python code. Like say this is, say without parentheses also we can define a tuple. To identify it properly and quickly, we can enclose the tuple elements within parentheses. To create a tuple with a single element, say we have to include a final comma. Say for example, if we type t1 is equal to, if at all I want to create a tuple with only one element, still I should include this comma. If we don't include that final comma, then what happens? Let us see that. Here, say if we see, for example, I want to create a simple tuple with one element. Okay, so for that purpose, I'll start Python 3 interpreter. Now here, to define the tuple, what I do, I'm going to declare t is equal to a, and see here, this is one element and comma should be there. Then if I write t, this is one element. If I want to see the type of t, you can see it's a class tuple. Whereas if I don't include that comma, what happens? Just t is equal to a. Still it accepts. But what is t now? If I see the t, it will be of a class string. Try to see the difference. If you don't include this final comma, then it will be a string, like in this case, right? Without the final comma, Python treats a as an expression with a string in parentheses, which that evaluates to a string. Like say t2 is equal to a, type t2 is string. Another way to construct a tuple is using a built-in function called a tuple only. There's a built-in function in Python called a tuple. Like say for example, if at all I want to create an empty tuple using this built-in function, say very simple, like I'll write t1 is equal to tuple. If I want to test type of t1, it is class tuple. And if I type t1, nothing is there in that. Okay, so because it's an empty tuple. Okay, so we'll see even how to add elements to it. So if we print a t, we'll get just parentheses. The argument is a sequence like a string, list or tuple. The result of a call to a tuple is tuple with the elements of the sequence. Like say here in previous case, we called a tuple function without any arguments, means no arguments were specified. But we can have arguments, and arguments can be of any sequence like strings or list or even a tuple also. In that case, the result of a call to a tuple is a tuple with the elements of sequence. Let us see here. If I call the tuple function with some elements, I'm going to construct t2 is equal to, let us call tuple with, say for example, I'll give a sequence of characters tklp. Then what will happen? So it is going to create a tuple, and if I print that, print t2, it is going to print a sequence of elements, and these elements here of type characters. See, here I have given this as a string, but that has been converted to sequence of characters here, and all those elements are separated by comma. So the difference between string is, if I say take for example some s is equal to tklp, and when I print s, I'll get directly that string tklp. Because tuple is the name of a constructor obviously we should avoid using it as a variable name. So here I think this constructor is a new for many of you. So this is one terminology where persons who have studied say object oriented programming languages will be say very much well known to this particular terminology. This terminology will come in object oriented concepts. A constructor is something like a method. In previous classes we have discussed object is nothing but it's a combination of variables and functions. Those will work on the variables, and a method which will be called on itself when a object is created. Say automatically if a method is called, such a method are called as constructors. Okay, so constructor is a simple method. It will be called automatically whenever say the object will be created. Most list operators also work on tuples. The bracket operator indexes an element, like say T is ABCD. This is a list. If I want to print a first element, print a T of 0. This is an index operator. Means a bracket operator indexes an element. If I create a one tuple T is equal to A, then B, then C, D, E. So if I want to print first element, so I can use bracket operator T of 0. So if at all I want to print the third element, T of 2. And even we can use a slice operator to select a range of elements. Say for example, if at all I want to print the elements 0 to 3, I will print. Say it will going to print 0, 1, 2, A, B, C, it will going to print. Okay. So if I start from say 2 to, it should go up to last. Means it should print C, D, E. One more thing here is, if at all we try to modify the element of a tuple. Let us consider, say the tuple T is this. It contains 5 elements, and if I want to change the first element, by accessing T of 0, what we get first element. And if I try to change it, already it is small a, if I try to change that to a capital A, let us consider, then we get an error. And error says that tuple object doesn't support item assignment. Means we cannot use assignment operator on elements of a tuple. Because of this, we can say that tuples are immutable in nature. As like strings are immutable, tuples are immutable, whereas lists are mutable, because we can modify the elements of list. Okay, so but there is one thing, we cannot modify, but we can always replace one tuple with another. So we try to modify the tuple, say which is T, say we couldn't do it, but we can always replace. Like say for example, T is equal to, say I want to change this particular element, right? Say this particular element by capital A. So what I do, I'll change it, plus I'll add a slice of different, like say I'll start with 0, I have added 1 is to last. So this is, as I told, there should be a comma, right? Even better, let me use tuple assignment. Right, this is a tuple syntax. And now, so you can see this is a first element, 0th index, and from 1 to last I have taken from this. And now if I print a T, the first element has been changed, which earlier it was small a, now it is capital A. But remember, we have not changed a T. Instead we replaced a T. Instead of here T is equal to, we would have written T2 or T1. Say I cannot directly change T, something like this. Say for example, T of 1 is equal to, if I want capital B, I cannot do that, because item assignment is not allowed. But we can always replace. Say in this case, I have replaced the tuple, the earlier tuple by the different one. Okay, the original tuple has been replaced by the, say, one more tuple where the first element has been changed. Now, this is what a slice operator can select a range of elements, and we cannot modify the elements of a tuple because we'll get an error. And say we can't modify the elements of a tuple, but we can replace one tuple with another. Say something this, whatever we have discussed. Okay, and so we can compare two tuples. How can we compare two tuples? The comparison operator works with tuples and other sequences. Python starts by comparing a first element from each sequence. If they are equal, it goes on to next element, and so on until it finds elements that differ. Subsequent elements are not considered even if they are really big. let us consider, say for example, how the Python comparison operator works. Let us consider if there are two tuples, say one, I'll show this with example here itself. Consider that there is a one tuple, say 0, 1, 2 is one tuple. Let us consider there is one more tuple, 0, 1 and 3. Say when we compare two tuples, it will start the comparison by element. So it will take first element here and first element here, it does the comparison. If both are equal, then it goes to the next element. Like it will take, say, the second element here and the second element here, it does the comparison. So once again, if both are equal, then it will go to the next element. This process will continues until it finds elements which differs. Like say third element, if you see, say here, say this is 2, this is 3, which are not equal, it will stop. Even though say later after 2 and 3, if the tuple is very much bigger also, it will stop the comparison, because here only it has found that both are not equal. So if I use a comparison operator, let us consider one tuple 0, 1, 2. I want to see whether it is lesser than say 0, 3, 4. True. See, because it will compare 0 with 0. Yes, both are equal. Then it will compare 1 with 3. So 1 is less than 3. Say for example this one only, if at all I change this to 6, whereas 6 is greater than 4, but still we get true because 0 is equal whereas 1 is less than 3. Because of that, say it will say that, say this particular tuple is lesser than this. If you see in terms of sequences, this is 0, 1, 6, whereas this is 0, 3, 4. Okay. So because of this will tell that this is lesser, because 1 is here, 6 is greater than 4, but it doesn't compare. Okay. So it will compare element by element. If the element is, say this element here itself, it is 2, 1 is less than 3. Yes. Say for example one more comparison, if I show, if I write here 3, it is false, and if I write say for example 5, is false. And one more thing here is, this is I'll make it 1 only, and this one is, let us consider 6000. So what we get, if you see this is 6000, this is 0, 3, 4, this is 0, 1 and 6000, still we get true, because the first element, the second element, when it will compare it, the comparison goes element by element, the first are equal, whereas in second case here the first element is smaller than the second, even though the third element here is very much bigger than the third element here, but it will stop the comparison here itself. The comparison will be by element. Say one more example. Say if at all say I can show you here, if I use 10, here itself it will show false, because the first element is bigger than the second one. So this is a comparison, but remember the comparison will be by element. The sort function works the same way. It sorts primarily by first element, but in the case of time, it sorts by the second element and so on. So means the sort also works in the same way. It will go with comparison, first element, second element, third element, like that. Okay. So if say for example while comparing, if two elements are equal, then it will skip that and start with the second element. But in case of time is whenever equal elements will be there, then it starts by taking the second element. So that will go on. Say for example, suppose we have a list of words and we want to sort them from longest word to a shortest. Like say for example, let us consider there is a sentence like actions speaks louder than words. Here I want to arrange these words. The first word should be longest and the last word should be shortest. How can we do that? Okay, we can use tuple for this, and let us see how to write the program for this. See, one thing is, I'm going to take one line that I call it as a sum, like say line is equal to actions speak louder than words. So this is a line or string. I'm going to say divide this string into number of words using split method, so which works on string line dot split. Remember, it will split by default using the delimiter will be space. And even here itself, if you see, if you print words, so the line has been split into words. Now I'm going to create a list. Say for example, a list lst is equal to empty list will be created using a function list. Okay, we can see lst is empty. Now I use a for loop for word in words. For every word in words, what I do, t dot, I'm going to append every word to this particular list. Okay, lst dot, this list I'm going to append using a function called append. Okay, append. Say what I append is I'm going to append length of word, and another one is word itself. Here have I not closed? This is okay, I have not yet closed. Right, so this I have closed because here 2 parentheses open and this is 3, this is 1 closed, second closed and third closed. Okay, so now afterwards if at all I type list lst, let us see. Yes, lst contains, earlier lst list was empty. Now if you see list, say actions, it contains 7 characters, means length of actions is 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, you can see. Speak 5, louder 6, then than 4 and words 5. Okay, and what I want to do here is I want to sort. We can directly use a sort method on this, like lst. Okay, first let me store lst dot sort. I use sort method. So where, say I'll start from, by default, say for example, if I just write sort and see the output, say lst will be, say it will going to sort in ascending order, like say smaller say words are here and longer words are here. But what was our intention? To sort from longest to shortest. Obviously in that case, if at all we want from descending, if at all we want to sort in descending order, then we are supposed to write inside the sort is equal to true, means in a reverse order you sort it. Then now if I print lst, say let us see, here it has started in decreasing order. Say actions, then you can see 6 element word, say which is means 6 character words, 6. Say here louder, then words, then speak, and lastly that. So this is, I can create a one list here, like a result is equal to one more list I can create. List. Now for length, we can append using 2 different elements, like here say for length comma word, because remember, so whatever our lst is there, it has 2 elements. One is this, another one is this. This is length and this is word. Because of that, I am going to sort based on those 2 iteration variables. One is for length, or say comma word in lst, say ris dot append that word. If I print ris, what we get? Say we get a list containing words which are sorted in descending order. The length of extents is 7, whereas the length of than is 4. Say from decreasing order it has been say sorted. The same, say here I have executed this in a Python interpreter. If at all you want, say the same thing can be done in a file, means you can type in a file and continue with that. Say it will take a 1 minute. If you want, I'll just do it. Say let us say sort list dot py, something like that. So very simple. So I'll use Python 3 interpreter to execute. Here you can see, so this is a result which contains only words. This is a lst list. This is a res list, result at the end, so which contain only those elements, whereas it contains elements even along with the length. So this is very simple example where we have sorted a given text in largest to smallest length. If you see, the first loop builds a list of tuples. This first loop will going to build a list of tuples where each tuple is a word preceded by its length. So that's what we had seen earlier. So if you see here, say this is the result of list. each tuple is a length and a word. See, afterwards, look at this. Sort compares the first element, length, first, and only considers the second element if at all it breaks. The meaning here is, say for example, in case of comparison, if at all both the numbers are both, like here is also length 5, here is also length 5. If both are equal, okay, so here length 7, here length 6, obviously the, say this will be taken, action will be taken earlier than, say louder, say which is length of 6. As here both are 5, then which has to be taken first? That will be depending on, because it is a reverse alphabetical order. Say first W, say W is greater than S, because of that here say W it come say earlier than list. That's what here, even we, if you, when we have printed it, we can see here action is there, then louder is there. In case of these two, means words and speak both have 5 characters, but in that words has been taken earlier than say speak, because W is greater than S, because the sorting is in a descending order. That's what, in case of tie only it is going to take the second element, otherwise it will decide only on the first element. That is the meaning here. So sort compares the first element, length first, and only considers the second element to break ties. Okay, when both are equal, if the length of two elements are equal, then only it will consider the second element. Okay, the keyword argument reverse is equal to true tells a sort to go in a decreasing order. The second loop traverses the list of the tuple and builds a list of words using a list of tuple. The first list is a list of tuple. After traversing a list of tuple, so we are going to build a list of words, that is RES, which we had taken in previous example, where it is going to sort that in a descending order length. The 5 character words are sorted in a reverse alphabetical order, so words appears before speak in the following list. Okay, here you can see the output. It was something like actions, louder, words, and speak, and lastly that. Okay, the LST that we had used is list of tuples, whereas RES which we have used is a list of strings. Okay, so with this we'll proceed further. So on a tuple assignment, one of the unique syntactic feature of the Python language is the ability to have a tuple on the left side of an assignment statement. So very important. Say we can have, say, even though the tuple is immutable in nature, but say we can have, see, this is what the Python language, say one of the important unique syntactic feature of a Python language is the ability to have a tuple on the left side of an assignment statement. This allows us to assign more than one variable at a time when the left side is a sequence. So let us consider, in this example we have, I was telling that say even we can assign more than one value simultaneously. This is the time say where we can discuss that. Say tuple is one example where we can assign more than one value simultaneously. See here, in example we have a 2 element in a list which is a sequence. One is have, another one is fun, and assign the first and second element of the sequence to variables x and y in the single statement. Like say for example here, say M is a 2 element list. Okay, here have and fun. Say this is a list. Okay, say it's a list of 2 sequence, and what I'm doing, so this M we are directly assigning x comma y, say is equal to M, means this is a tuple. To that directly we are assigning a value. So here 1 to 1 mapping will takes place. X will be assigned a value have, and y will be assigned a value fun. Because of that, if we print x we'll get have, and if we print y we'll get fun. Say if at all, say you want, I'll show you this in Python interpreter. M is equal to, say it is a list of strings. One is have and another one is fun. Remember, it's a list of strings. Now x comma y 2 tuple is equal to M. Okay, and if I print x have, if I print y fun. Say one more thing, say even instead of this, what can be done is x comma y, then x is this and y is this, because this is a syntax, means we can ignore it, but properly point to the tuple, say we can use parenthesis. Okay, so this is also okay. This is also tuple, but parenthesis will be very easier to identify this as a tuple. Python roughly translates a tuple assignment syntax to be the following. If we see, say m is equal to have and fun, it is something like this. When we assign x comma y is equal to m, say it does something like this. X is equal to m of 0 and y is equal to m of 1. So because of that, when we print x, we get a have, and when we print y, so we'll get fun. When we use tuple on the left side an assignment statement, we omit the parenthesis, but following is an equally valid syntax. That's what here. So that's what I have told. I mean, first parameter will be assigned to x, then second parameter will be assigned to y. So that is also okay, and this is also okay. A particularly clever application of tuple assignment allows us to swap the values of two variables in the single statement. Like whenever I want to swap the values of two variables, then say normally what we do is we are going to take three variables we will take normally, and out of those three variables, the two variables will be swapped. Like say if I take a is equal to 5 and b is equal to say 7, if I want to swap, so normally what we do is we are going to take some other a temporary variable, means a third variable. So we'll assign one of the variables to this third variable, like c is equal to a, and later a is equal to b, and lastly b is equal to c. This anyone knows. And if I print a, it will be 7, and if I print b, it will be 5. So this is swapping two variables using a third variable. But without that, we can do that say directly in Python. Say a comma b, say already if we see a is equal to 7 and b is equal to 5, we are going to swap this. Say a comma b is equal to, it is b comma a, and now if I type a, it is 5 and b is 7. So how it will evaluate is, first it will evaluate left hand side and it will take the values. It will take the b value and it will take the a value. Later assignment operator will be executed. First b will be assigned to a and later a will be assigned to b. Because of that, say without using third variable, we can swap using a tuple. This is one of the very important application of a tuple. And another one thing is, in case of assignment, say for example, what I was telling in the previous slide is, we can simultaneously assign two variables, like a is equal to I can do 2 comma 5. Obviously here if I print a, 2, b, 5. But remember one thing, so how many variables will be there left hand side, those many elements should be there right hand side. If it doesn't match, then we are going to get an error. Like say for example, if here say we'll get too many values to unpack. So remember, say when you get this too many values to unpack, the meaning is left hand side and right hand side, the variables and element doesn't match. And here if you see, that's what both side of this assignment statements are tuple, but the left side is a tuple variable and the right side is a tuple expression. Okay, so this will be a variable, this will be considered as a variable, and this is the expression. Each value on a right hand side of assignment operator will be processed first. Okay, assigned to a respect variable of left hand side. All the expression on the right side will be evaluated before any assignments. The number of variables on the left and the number of values on the right must be same, otherwise we are going to get this error. More generally, the right side can be any kind of sequence, means at the right side we can have a string, list, or even tuple. For example, to split the email address into username and a domain name, so means username is something like this. If you take an example, info@technologypark.in, so here info is a username and technologypark.in is a domain name. And if at all I want to split it, then what we can do is, it is very simple. We can use a split method which works on a string, because this is addr is a string. We can write uname comma domain is equal to addr.split. You see, by default the delimiter will be space, but we can specify delimiter here. Means split this word, so wherever at is there, obviously the info will be separated and the technologypark.in will be separated, and when we print say uname, we will get info, and when we print say domain name, we will get technologypark.in. Say for example, this I will show on a Python interpreter. So if we see, like here addr is equal to say info@techknowlogy.in. So this is a string Now if I write uname comma domain is equal to addr dot split at, then if I print uname we'll get info, and if I print domain, so we'll get technologypark.in. So, right? Hope this is clear to all of you, dear students. With this, let me stop here. Thank you for watching.